Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to make a soup. A very simple soup that relies on very simple ingredients and also uses up some leftovers for me, but you don't have to use leftovers when you make it at home. So we're going to start out with some bacon, and this is our home smoked bacon. I'm going to put this into the pot, and I want to render it out kind of slowly to get the fat out, and then I want to crisp it up and make it nice and brown. This is our homemade bacon, and sometimes you get a slab of belly that just doesn't have a whole lot of fat, and that's what happened this time. Over here I've got some rice pudding, eggnog rice pudding on the go. I just need to stir it every once in a while. Make sure that it doesn't boil over. Okay, next into this pot we have a mirepoix, so celery, carrot, and onion all diced up. That goes in, and I just want to fry this off until it's all kind of soft. Once the onions have softened, I just want to crush in a little bit of garlic. 1, 2, 3 cloves, depending on what you like. Now, some of the other flavor profile. This is essentially bean with bacon soup. So I want to add a little bit of oregano, some chili powder, and a chili powder of your choice. Today I'm going to use a dried chipotle, but you could put in cayenne if you wanted to, or any other chili powder. Or you could just leave it out if you wanted to. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper, freshly ground of course, grind this ahead of time, and some salt. Now, be careful with the salt. If your bacon is really salty, you won't need to add as much. And also, when it comes to your stock, if you've got a very salty stock, you won't need to add as much here. So I'm going to add a little bit because I know where I am with both of these, but I would suggest that if you aren't sure, maybe wait to the end before you add any salt. Taste it once it's all come together, and then adjust as necessary. So I'm going to stir that in. It's coming together nicely. Now, beans. It's a bean with bacon soup. I use canned beans, and I know a lot of people take issue with that, and they find my home email, and they send me nasty messages about how horrible it is that I used canned beans. Here's the thing. I find that canned beans are actually better than dried beans. Flavor-wise, consistency of quality is better with cans, even with the no-name cans. They cost a little bit more in a can, but I can also decide that I want to make a soup and then make a soup. I don't have to decide yesterday that I want to make a soup tomorrow. So, in with the beans. And of course, you can use any bean that you like. Whatever you've got in your cupboard, or if you have a favorite bean, I'm going to mix it up today. I've got black-eyed peas and navy beans, but of course, use whatever you've got. I'm going to stir that in. Now it's time to add some tomato. And you could just put in a canned tomato, a canned diced tomato. You could put in a tomato passata, which is a ground tomato. You could put in Rotel if you wanted to put in Rotel. Rotel would be great. What I have here are the last of the tomatoes from our garden. And it... Usually Canadian Thanksgiving, we pull out the tomatoes because they're not going to ripen any farther, and the last ones to ripen just get stewed down with a little bit of onion and celery. And I'm going to put them in this soup. Last in, you need about 3 cups of stock. Now, normally I would use chicken stock because I always have chicken stock on hand. If you don't have chicken stock that you've made yourself, you can use the stuff that you buy in a carton from the grocery store. That's perfectly fine. But if you've been watching Jamie and I cut up the pig, you might have seen me make this pork stock. And this is super gelatinous pork stock. And it's got great flavor, and it would go excellent with a bean and bacon soup. So I'm going to spoon in what I think might be 3 cups, but we'll figure it out later. Jiggly pork stock, look at that. Okay, put that in and we'll give this a stir, and the stock melts almost immediately. This is one of those soups that as soon as this comes up to a boil, it's pretty much done. Everything that went into this pot is cooked at this point. It doesn't require a really long, slow cook, but I still like to simmer it for half an hour to an hour, just to let all the flavors come together and meld as one. Let's just give it a little taste right now. I think all the flavors are in balance. So I'm going to put the lid on, let this go for about a half an hour to an hour, and then we'll taste it again. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn.
We're
hey,
having,
friends.
We're having soup for supper. You want to get a couple of spoons there and we'll taste this?
Two tiny spoons
Okay.
for tasting.
So,
We have sea beans.
bean with bacon soup. And so it has the pork stock that we made and the last of the tomatoes from the garden.
So we're hunkering down for winter, are we? We've got a little bit of, all the things we've put away for the winter months.
Yeah.
Or the last little bits, because that was like the half jar. But
Yeah, there wasn't much left.
yeah,
Yeah.
it smells really good. Yeah, that's a good hearty soup.
There's a lot going on in there. You could change the spicing, like I said, with the pepper that you put in, the chili pepper that you put in.
Yes.
I put in 2 cans of beans. You could definitely load this down with another can or 2 of beans if you wanted a beanier soup.
Different beans.
Different beans, yeah. So I use 2 different kinds of beans. You can put in 4 different kinds of beans. You can put in all the same kind of bean. You could buy the cans that are the bean medleys.
There's so many choices.
There's so many choices. And if you put in 2 extra cans of beans, then just sort of play with the liquid. You might have to add a cup or 2 of water to thin it out a little bit. Of course, if you want it thicker, you just boil it a little more.
longer.
And thick or thin.
So many variations.
I mean, what I've given you is a recipe that isn't a recipe. It's a starting point.
Guideline.
It's a guideline, yeah. It's make this into whatever you want. So use a different stock, use different beans, use different kinds of tomatoes, use different kinds of spices, but I mean, you put it in a pot and it's soup. Is that
Yeah.
confusing enough?
You can make it. You could make this very difficult, and you make this very simple.
Yeah, and this is something that realistically, within an hour, you can be eating it. Right from the get-go of pulling the bacon out of the fridge. An hour later, you can have this soup and be eating it, which is great.
I like the purple carrots too.
Yeah, those are from the garden too. I went out and pulled from the garden. So, thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.